It's been 10 years since the 15th March 2015, when Kendrick Lamar's fifth studio album, To Pimp a Butterfly, was released. To Pimp a Butterfly is more than just a critically acclaimed album. It's a cultural artifact, a sonic protest, and a poetic documentation of black experience in modern America. Featuring names like Thundercat, Pharrell, Robert Glasper, and Knowledge, from the opening track, Wesley's Theory, Kendrick sets the tone. A fusion of funk, jazz, soul, and hip-hop that both honor black musical roots and pushes them forward. Today, I'll be breaking down how you can emulate and achieve this sound entirely from scratch, by using live instruments like Rhodes piano, acoustic bass, saxophones, and uprights. So, a good way to start whenever you're making this type of beats is to choose the correct instrument, and for that I suggest you to start with a Rhodes piano. I made this Rhodes using a patch from Keyscape, but it's a pretty simple Rhodes without any effects added, just a little bit of a room within this large hole, and it sounds like this. So, as you may heard, I decided to pull down a pretty simple chord progression which goes from G minor to D minor. I just added a bunch of 9th and 7th and some embellishment in order to recreate this jazzy nostalgic feeling. And after that I immediately lay down some bass notes within a stock bass from Logic, which is I think the normal acoustic bass, and they sound like this. So I added a bunch of effects for these basses, just like these two pedals, which is one auto funk and another modern wah, which are stock from Logic. I just tweaked it a little bit, but they were pretty simple. And after that I added this compressor LA2A from Universal Audio in order to compress 1 or 2 dBs. Then I added another bass amp within this presets called Flabba, in order to have a little bit of a low end, which were missing because the notes were higher than I expected. And then I added this Fab Filter Pro Q2 in order to fix this resonance, which was very annoying. So after that I added two vocals that I found on Splice, which were pretty complementary one to another, so I decided to put one to the left and the other one to the right, and together they sound like this. So after this I decided to add some other elements, just like this lead guitar, which was a stock plugin from Logic. This is a stock bass guitar. So I added this pedal board within this grid, this flange factory and this phaser. Then I put some micro phase on it, but just on insert in order to have this panning from left to the right. A really cool element in the song because it helps to give this jazzy but nostalgic and also hard feelings that the Kendrick songs in To Pimp a Butterfly have, just like for example Institutionalize or These Walls, whenever you hear this lead which seems like a feedback of the guitar. Then I added this synth that it was made I think on Sky Keys, and it sounds like this. So these are the most important element for this first part of the beat before the switch. And then there's also these saxophones that I found on Splice. The cool thing is the fact that this saxophone was on an F minor key, but I didn't have to change the pitch because it was fitting perfectly the rest of the elements. delay on it in order to have this repetition of the phrases, because I think they were really cool, especially within all the rest of the elements. So then we could move to the coolest part of the beat, which is the drums. For the drums, I decided to use something which was pretty realistic and acoustic, and they together sound like this. So the drums are pretty simple. I decided to use two hi-hats, one different to another. I wanted to have the feeling of a real drummer. That's why I slightly move everything a little bit of grit. Then you have this count kick. There's also this snare from the Versus kit, which is a really cool snare because it sounds very well, especially within the rest of the elements. And so after that I decided to put a tape emulation on it with this preset called Headroom, in order to have a little bit of a crispness, I'd say, within the rest of the drums. Then you have this also avant-garde hat loop that sounds like this. That it seems to be in clash within the rest of the elements of the beat, but if you're gonna listen them together, it stands out pretty well and it helps to give some more bounce to the rest of the drums and the rhythmic section. So we could move to the coolest part of this beat, in my opinion, which is the switch that goes from here to there, and it sounds like this. This is probably one of the coolest things I've ever made without any samples and playing all the elements. And for starting this switch I decided to pull up this piano, which is from Arturia. I didn't bounce the second one so you can see which is the preset. But this piano basically it repeats the same chords that I made using the Rhodes in a different way, and also with a sample delay on it in order to make this just like, you know, repetition feels more realistic. The piano sounds like this. As the piano changes, obviously the bass changes, so I decided to lay down some other bass notes which were sounding like this. As you may heard, you have this glide pickup effects that I think it was a really cool thing to add, especially within this piano changes, and you have obviously the same effects within this bass pattern to the other one. Then I added this high embellishments piano notes, which were pretty cool. So as you may heard, there's this D minor 7 chord progression, which basically is the most important element for laying down all of the rest of the embellishment for this beat and for these chord progressions. This one, it sounds like this. I decided to make something which was starting from a part and ending to another instead of making some loop which was too repetitive. So the piano within these high notes sounds like this. I decided to use Jazz Upright Clean. I just tweaked it a little bit from starting from the stereo width, and then I turned the brightness a little bit in order to have this piano sounding more vintage and older. Then I found these amazing vocals which were fitting perfectly the rest of the elements, especially the pianos and the bass, and these vocals sounds like this.
This was real, but I'm just trying to make something real.
The funny thing is that these vocals are in a major key and I made everything on a minor key, but I think in my opinion they fits perfectly the nostalgic vibe of these chords, especially within the pianos. And then you have also this saxophone, which is another phrase that I didn't play to you before, so is this one that sounds like this. After a bunch of bars, 17 bars I'd say, there's the first part again, the repetition of the beat that I played you before, and then I had a couple of effects, just like fills, effects, and just like some ambience, vinyl, crackle vinyl, and the birds effect. It's not nothing that you should just like pay that much attention. It's just like a pretty simple thing that you can add or not in your beats. Then I made these two lasers effects. And then you have this feel, which is every or bar that basically stands the ending of a drum loop. There's nothing much more, I'd say. This is the full beat. It's a pretty complicated beat, but not in the way of the chord progressions or the elements, rather than I'd say to the construction, because you have a bunch of bars, then you have the switch, and then you have, you know, every element which alone it seems to be crap, but standing out with the others is pretty cool. So in my opinion, the thing that you are gonna have to do whenever you're making this kind of beats is try not to make a reference within the jazz songs that you like, and listen to them, understand how the mixes are, understand how every element and how every instrument stands out, and lay down in the instrumental, because this is a really important thing. For example, one thing that I decided to do, which was a really game changer for me, was panning the vocals and also the saxophones, because they were standing in the stereo part, and in the center you have the drums, which were just like hitting in the front of you, and then you have also the Rhodes and this piano, which were pretty interesting for having the majority of the attention, in my opinion. So this is my Kendrick Lamar To Pimp Butterfly Deconstructed. I hope you liked this video. I hope I gave you some interesting tips whenever you're making this kind of beats. I suggest you to subscribe to my channel, leave a like and a comment on the video, suggest me some other artists that I should my breakdown to, and tell me if you have any questions or ideas. I also recommend you to check my BeatStar channel because you have some free stuff, especially one drum kit and another sample pack of R&B samples that I made for free. So you should check out all this stuff, and there's nothing more. I hope you like this video and see you on the next time.